Hey Ivan, thanks for sending me over those videos. I'm glad your lockdown is over and you're able to get out and throw. I will provide you some throwing advice here specifically on to how to pull better. It's looking like you've already got a really strong forehand, so I'm just going to get right into these videos. And let's turn down the volume a bit. Bring this to the right size here. Nice X step. It looks like there's actually a lag on your backhand pull between it's just a little disjointed. So I actually want to see during the X step here, in this position on that step, I kind of already want in that plant the full wind up for the disc to be all the way back. And I'm going to see if I can get back just parallels to compare with my pulls. Not saying that mine are perfect, but I try to reach these positions, right? So on my backhand pull, X step, you can see through the whole pulling process here. Watch what my right arm is doing. So I'm starting my X step, and the right arm smoothly the whole time is getting into backhand loaded position. So I'm getting smooth backswing. And then here I'm planting and I'm already fully coiled so that the energy from my X step gets to travel instantly into my throw. So there's no delay there. Whereas with yours, let's open this up. You can see there is a small delay and you're losing power in that second that it takes you to start your windup late. And it's an incomplete windup. Your windup is at the bottom of your throw. So it's just like from here, it's like, let's get during that X step, let's already be coiling the upper body so that, you know, back in this position, let's look at these positions. When you have this X step position here, I'm already most of the way back on mine. And in your X step, you're starting to come back, but then it kind of your upper body hangs out in that neutral position. You want more coil, so I'm starting that coil. And then on plant, you don't actually wind up that much. The disc is back a little bit, but it's really low. And so you have to generate all this power just from it's like a 1-inch punch. It's like almost no distance to create all that power. From there to your throw, you're only using half of what you could be using for your follow through on that backhand. So here's the other position you want to look at. This is where you're really starting your throw from. And you could be bringing that back more. So this is where I'm starting my throw from. It's way up here, which means that there's more distance that power can be generated on the follow through. So my follow through is all of that distance. Whereas your follow through starts at the bottom and then you have to kind of create as much power as you can from an abbreviated throw. So just try working on getting that arm high and farther back on the backhand pull. I love that your trailing foot is getting right off the ground and you're swinging it. It's ending up in this position here. So your lower body is doing exactly what it should be. It's spinning. So everything's looking really good. The release angle is smooth and it's got that IO shape, which is amazing. And it's nice and high. So you're going to be getting more glide out of that than if it was lower. All of the rest of that looks really good. So let's look at the next one. I will just move that aside for now. So here we have a forehand pull, and this is where you wanted specific advice here. It's a pretty good pull, even though you're not quite satisfied with it and want more improvement and feedback on it. You've got IO shape the whole way. So let me grab my forehand pull here. Wrong window, there it is. Forehand pull, slow motion. That's just the backhand. Forehand pull. So what's different? One thing you'll notice is that my upper body is more upright in the release position and in the load up position, I think. So here I'm releasing, there's like a nice straight line through my plant foot all the way up through my hips, spine, shoulders, and head. I'm spinning nicely on that straight axis, whereas I notice that you kind of fold over and collapse in your final position of release. And what I mean by that is right here, you're very like crunched up, and it's hard to rotate and spin quickly when you're in this crunched up position. If you can get to a more upright position, if you're standing tall, you're gonna spin better. And if you have your shoulders on an angle, which you do, like your shoulders are nicely aligned here, that's great. But your legs are all crouched down, and so it's hard to spin effectively when your legs are crunched up like that. You look how straight my legs are, and so my hips can spin a little easier. Another position to think about, let's see, this is where I'm generating a lot of my power in my forehand, is that big step. I'm creating a lot of distance between that planting foot, and I've got the disc high, elbow high, and reached far back. Like there's a lot of potential energy created from this position. And let's see where you are with yours. So you get the elbow high, the elbow's in good position, but this disc is still low. And so the elbow comes down and tries to create that whipping effect. And it works for you, but I'd be curious what would happen if you got the disc and the forearm and everything higher up. So let's just compare these two positions. So you can see how high, like I've got the disc way back and up and wound up, and it's like over my head, and yours is a bit lower, so you're losing a bit of wind up in that position. So it's a smaller throw, really. Like everything that's happening in your throw is more compact. If you see what the disc is, what kind of path the disc is taking from here to here, it's moving in a very small range of motion. Whereas for me, I'm all the way back here, bigger range of motion, and so I can put more energy into the disc. And let's see, at regular speed, that's not the right one. Forehand, pull. Oh, maybe I don't have a regular speed on this. I think it's all slow motion. It actually comes out with a bit of a wobble, but the result works. Yeah, I would just focus on getting a bit more upright and getting that elbow high and trying it out instead of the disc down here. Try it with the disc higher up on that forehand pull. What do we have here? Another angle of the forehand pull. Yeah, I think the problematic position for you might just be that you're getting all compressed here. Like you're really quite crunched up. And again, just looking at my position here, I do enter some compression. Whoa, I didn't mean to speed that up. I do enter some compression here, but not nearly as much, right? Like it's just kind of a big step that I take at the end. And your step right here, it's quite a small step. So I would also play with your footwork and just see if you can get this big powerful step at the very end. So you see I do this X step, my foot crosses. So I do have an X step. I don't know that you really have much of an X step where your feet cross. So now I'm looking at your footwork, and what I want is for there to be like this run and then like for your foot to cross over. So here I'm like starting, and then you can see I cross my legs, big X step. Look how much ground I cover on that X step, and that's straight into a big last stride. So these last two steps from here to here, there's a lot going on in my footwork, whereas your last two steps, much smaller activity. So from here, there's not a lot of an X step there, and then into that final step, it's sort of smaller. So I would be tempted to play around with a more decisive and larger X step like this, where you're actually pushing off. So see how much, like for me, it's a bit of a jump. Like I'm jumping, I'm not jumping up, but I'm like pushing the ground forward, or I'm pushing backward so that I propel forward here. Like that's a pretty explosive little push, and then a big step here. Look at this. Look at where my feet are there. So that final stride, that final position, I would try to get into more of an upright, powerful, wide stance position there, but make sure that you release that back foot. So watch my back foot release through the throw, comes out, and now I've got a narrow stance so that I can spin. And my trailing foot actually ends up in front of my pivot foot there, I suppose, my final plant foot. It's a good pull. You're getting lots of spin and great IO shape. I just think with more footwork, more hip spin, you're going to get more power and more distance. Let's see what other throws we got here. Final one. Backhand hook, nice X step there. So you've already, like, everything that you're doing here looks great. That X step is powerful. You're more confident going into this throw, you can tell, because here it's like a strong first stride. Nice X step there. Very, very good ground cover, or ground covered. You're covering good distance from here to here. And then final step, pretty strong. You could probably step out a little bit more there. So in this position, we're going back to the backhand. So I'll grab my backhand pull video. So same idea with mine. Strong first step, backward step, and then this here. This is the position we're looking at. Big, strong final step. You're seeing this triangular shape, very powerful, very stable. You've got that too. But look at the arm position. Right now, you're starting your throw. You never really bring your arm back far enough. You're gonna have way more distance when you bring your arm high and wind up more into your throw, because right now you're starting down here kind of. You could definitely get more distance out of it if you bring your arm higher and farther back. Shoulder position is good. Like you can see my chest is facing the other way. My back is facing upfield, so is yours. Just bring that arm a bit higher. I would also be tempted not to have you leaning as far forward. So like you're really like leaning forward. That's okay. I would just come a little more upright. You might not have to. It's just something to try. And here you actually do get into a very strong upright position. It's just kind of through here is where all the power is happening, right? So right there, you can see that you're kind of, there's more of a hinge, there's more of a bend in your structure there. And if you're not as bent forward, if you're more upright, you can sort of spin. It's hard to do with my hand, but you can spin better when you're straighter, when your whole body is in a straighter position. So if you have less hinge here, so you can see I'm straighter through my leg into my torso. There's very little bend, and so I spin a lot through my hips. Like my whole upper body is able to pivot on that shape and your arm is swinging around really well, but the upper body stops spinning about here. You could kind of, actually, you know what? It's just a small thing, but it's kind of just bring your butt in a little more so you're kind of spinning as a straighter axis there, I suppose. And then wrist position, I would experiment with a more loaded, like preloaded wrist. I don't know if I really do it either, but you can see how my wrist is a little bit more loaded up. I should be doing more. I should have my wrist loaded even more than that, so I get better spin. But really the main thing here for you is that starting position. That arm needs to be back more. But otherwise, again, your release angle, that IO release angle is really good. You're releasing nice and high, so it's going to get lots of glide. And it's going really far. So these are great throws, Ivan. Thanks for sending them over. And yeah, let me know how those adjustments work for you. And yeah, happy throwing.